Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. In this video, we are talking about how extreme programming teams work. Now, three things here before we get into the details. Number one, we've been covering a lot about extreme programming. Everything that you need to know about extreme programming will be available in a playlist, which is the second link in the description, because the first link is going to take you to an article over at our official website pmclounge.com, and this article is relevant to what we are talking about in this video. So if you are into reading articles, check out the first link. If you want to go over everything, if you want to know everything about extreme programming, check out the second link in the description, which is the entire playlist. Now, you might wonder, why should one study extreme programming to begin with? Well, if you're preparing for your PMI ACP certification, then I'd like to remind you that ACP certification is an agile certification. It is not a Scrum certification, right? So you should definitely know Scrum, but there are other methods and methodologies that teams use to achieve agility, and one of them is extreme programming. So if you're preparing for your ACP exam, in addition to Scrum, you should know these other methods and methodologies as well. One of them being extreme programming. So you should definitely know extreme programming. I would even say if you're preparing for your PMP exam, you should still know stuff about Agile, which is beyond Scrum, right? So not just Scrum, but you should know stuff beyond Scrum as well when it comes to PMP preparation. So that is why you should know about extreme programming. And thirdly, we are talking about how extreme programming teams work. How do they function? And you might wonder, how different can this be as compared to other project teams, as compared to, let's say, a Scrum team? Then I'd like to tell you that extreme programming teams, they work fundamentally differently than Scrum teams. So there's fundamental differences between the way Scrum teams or any other project teams work versus how XP teams work. And that's what we are going to be talking about. So let's get started. Let's talk about how these teams believe in working together. So in extreme programming, in XP, the general belief is that the people who work together, they listen to each other and help each other, are able to solve more problems, are able to write much more code, and also are able to write much higher quality code. So this is the very basis of how extreme programming teams work, right? So you should know that working together is a big theme when it comes to extreme programming teams. Now, everyone ensures that they work together as a team. But now, you might ask, right, what is the difference between what we are talking about right now versus, let's say, Scrum teams or versus any other project teams? Because everyone likes to work together, right? Everyone ensures that they work together as a team. But the point is, extreme programming, when you're reading about extreme programming, it is stressing on this fact. It is stressing on how working together is an important aspect, and this is something that you must do. So working as a team means doing whatever it takes to make people feel that they belong in the team. So again, basically, working as a team means doing whatever it takes to make people feel they belong, helping each person support everyone else on the team, and building a really, really supportive environment. So this is something that you might think, this is very generic, but we will also get into the specifics. So this is considered as a core practice for an XP team. You have to follow the core practices for your team to become an XP team. And working together has been given so much importance that working together stands as a core practice within XP. Now, the teams are built on trust. So trust is an extremely important trait for XP teams. Now, team works together, be it overcoming obstacles or making an important decision that affects the direction of the entire project. Everyone trusts the rest of the team members to figure out which decisions can be made individually and which ones need to be discussed with the rest of the team. I hope you understand the importance of why we are reading this, right? This is all core practice of extreme programming. You might have a project team. You might be a PMP certified project manager, right? You have a project team. But has anyone spoken to you about the importance of teams working together? Have you spoken to your teams about how the teams should be built on trust? Well, if you're working in an extreme programming environment, this is something that team members know. This is something that team members are taught. And this is something that the team members are reminded of time and again, that the kind of environment we are working on is basically built on trust, and we should trust the rest of the team members to figure out and let them take their individual decisions as well, right? So even if these individual decisions, even if they lead to mistakes, team members aren't afraid to make those mistakes. And this is such a powerful lesson right here, right? Team members are actually not afraid to make mistakes if they are taking any individual decisions, and they are taking these decisions on behalf of the entire project team, right? So rest of the team understands that mistakes are a part of the game, so it's best to learn from these inevitable mistakes, and it's best to do this learning together as a team. So this is something which is rated very high amongst the extreme programming teams. The teams are built on trust. A quick reminder about our Scrum 101 program. Check out the third link in the description, which will be a direct link to our Udemy training on Scrum 101. It's a 2-hour masterclass. It's a premium training, so definitely check it out. It is also available on our YouTube channel. If you join the YouTube channel, we call it the VIP Pass. So if you join our YouTube membership program, you essentially, it is called VIP Pass, and you can get access to premium training programs like Scrum 101. Now let's talk about how XP teams are fundamentally different as compared to other project teams. So one of the most unique features of XP teams is that there is absolutely no prescribed roles in XP teams. What does this mean? So there are several activities to perform when it comes to, let's say, building a software, right? So you need to talk to users, you need to write stories, you need to engineer the architecture, you need to design user interfaces, you need to write code, you need to do project management, testing, and so on and so forth, right? Now, typically in several project teams, actually most of the project teams out there, you will find that there's a testing team or a test manager. You'll find that there's a project manager. You'll find that there's an engineering team. You'll find there are designers, there are architects, right? There's a product manager who is, let's say, interfacing with the users as well, right? So you will find different roles. But what we see here is that XP teams have no prescribed roles. So what does this mean? Everyone is supposed to do a little bit of everything. So you might be writing code, but it is possible that you might be doing some sort of project management as well. So this is what makes extreme programming teams very, very unique. And I know it's difficult to understand this concept if you haven't worked in an XP environment. If you have, let me know in the comments. How was your experience working for an XP team? Now, this is why XP teams, they do not have any prescribed roles. Now, do you remember there are prescribed roles in Scrum, right? You have a Scrum Master, Product Owner, Development Team, right? These are prescribed roles in Scrum. XP does not have any prescribed roles. That's why some of the teams go with the hybrid approach. And I talked about it. I'll share a link to that video as well. Perhaps the fifth link, because the fourth is going to be our VIP Pass membership link. So perhaps the fifth link, you will find a video where I talked about how there are hybrid teams which take best practices from Scrum and best practices from XP, and then basically they have the best of both worlds here, right? So perhaps it is possible that teams go hybrid because it is very difficult to achieve this milestone of not having any prescribed roles within your team. Now, another fundamental difference that XP teams have as compared to others is that they sit together. The belief is that programming is a social activity. It's not work, it's social activity. You need more people around, you need to speak to more people to be able to write code. Now, it is so easy to imagine that an engineer is coding alone and he or she is sitting in the hills. But the fact is, most teams they need to discuss solutions before writing any code. And the best way to discuss is face to face, which is also one of the agile principles, right? The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face to face conversation. So when you're sitting together, obviously all conversation that's going on are face to face. So there are several topics that engineering teams can discuss. They can talk about the solution that is being built. They can talk about how to build it. They can talk about how the module a specific engineer is working on, how is that fitting in the larger picture, and the whole 5W1H, right? All kinds of questions can be answered face to face if you're sitting together. One other thing that happens here is pretty important, and that is that programming is also a concentration activity. So if the team is not sitting together, the engineers might be required to juggle between coding and then emails and messages, and this isn't something which is ideal. So if the teams are sitting together, right, the XP team is sitting together, and you want to have a discussion with any other engineer or any other person on your team, you are not going to write an email to them. You're not going to send a message to them. You are going to get up and you're going to walk up to the person and you are going to speak to them. And when it comes to sitting together, XP goes so far that it expects that the team members sit together, as in literally next to each other, and not on different places within an office. We'll talk about that as well. But first, let's cover this piece. This is another reason why XP teams sit together and they prioritize face to face conversations, because they don't want to be basically wasting their time in emails and messages. So, obviously, innovation becomes easier. Engineers don't spend time in emails and messages or walking around the office because, as I mentioned, teams are supposed to sit together, and this is something that teams follow. This is known as caves and commons. What does this mean, right? So a lot of XP teams they actually follow this caves and commons approach. Each team member, as you can see here, each team member has a private cube where they can do deep work without interruptions. But you can also see there's a big table here, right? Big table and chairs. And this is situated right in the middle of where the team is sitting. So, this is by design a space which is supposed to be in the middle of the team so that it becomes convenient for the team to have group discussions and meetings and everything, right? And this is known as commons. So this is a common. You see one common here, and then you see 6 different caves here. This is the whole approach of caves and commons. Now, note that caves and commons is not necessarily an XP practice. It is just a way that XP teams find it useful to work together, right? To have this kind of office design, they find it useful, and that is why a lot of actual extreme programming teams out there they use this caves and commons approach. Finally, before you go, I'd like to ask you, why is it so rare to find pure XP teams with no prescribed roles? Do you think this is going to lead to chaos, and perhaps that is the reason why we don't find XP being used commonly in the IT industry, in the software industry? Let me know in the comments. Definitely looking forward to your answers. And that's all that we had in this video. I hope you got value out of it. If you like our work, consider contributing, and definitely like, share, subscribe for more project management related content. If you want to keep learning, check out our other videos, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.